Hello Motorrad World fans, Rob Portman here, and I recently got to experience the iconic LeMans 24-hour race with my good friend Sheridan Rice and his team Wojciech World Endurance Racing Team. And just walking into the track for the first time, I could feel the vibe, I could feel the passion, I could feel the history that comes with the LeMans circuit out in France. It was the 24-hour race, my first time experiencing a world endurance event, and I was going to soak it all up over the course of the weekend, the Friday, the Saturday and the Sunday racing action with Shez and Team Wojciech Racing. The big beauty of the World Endurance Racing Series, as I come to find it, was unlike MotoGP, where it's very restricted. You need a luminous gold pass to do anything. You're not allowed filming this, don't do that. This is very much very accommodating. You can get right up close to the riders, the teams, as you can see here. This is me in the pits with Shez and his team taking a look at those beautiful R1 machines. That is the superbike machines. They've also got the super stock side of the garage, which we'll have a look at just now. The team runs the Dunlop tires, so Dunlop heavily involved. They've got the factory teams, so factory supported with factory effort tires, and then they've got the customer-based teams, which is Team Wojciech and Sheridan. And that is probably the biggest downfall of racing competitively here, is that no one races on the same kind of spec tires. Bridgestone have their factory supported teams, and those are tires you can't buy. If you're on the factory spec Dunlops, you have a much better advantage compared to the customer supported tires that Shez and most of the teams run. So that was a big handbrake for the likes of Shez and them to really compete against those top factory teams, not having the same spec tire available. This was Shez getting ready to go out on the Friday little practice session where they get out before they head out for qualifying to put in their times to get ready for the start of the 24-hour race, which takes place on the Saturday. After a warm-up session, they get a Saturday warm-up, and then they climb in with the race starting at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Shez coming in, happy with his first little stint, posting really competitive times, and enjoying his time out at LeMans, a track where he held the lap record for a few years back, setting that fastest lap time, so he really does know his way around the iconic LeMans circuit. This is a view from the top where just above the pit, this is the rider kind of room, and where the team get to come and chill, and the riders get to get ready and have all their stuff. And while I was filming upstairs waiting for Shez to come back in fact the whole team was waiting for Shez to come back in, we eventually just got a damaged bike with no Sheridan. This is the bike. Shez unfortunately having a big crash coming out of the chicane, landing on his head and being taken to hospital for observation of a possible concussion. So that left me to take in some of the sights and sounds of the LeMans 24-hour on a Friday afternoon. Back in the team garage, and you can see they've had the bike completely stripped down. That Sheridan unfortunately did crash. So just take you around how the beautiful Yamaha R1 Superbike spec World Endurance machine looks with its clothes off. As you can see, it's quite a lot different to a production version of the R1. Still got the basic chassis and stuff, but they've got the quick release wheels, they've got the proper Öhlins forks, they've got all the telemetry, a lot more electronics involved there. And then the biggest change is, of course, that tank, the bigger World Endurance tank for some more fuel to do more laps for these longer stints and 24-hour and World Endurance races. Bridgestone, as I said, heavily involved. These are pretty much the MotoGP tires from a couple of years back, and these are the tires to be on, as I found out throughout the whole weekend. It really has got its advantages being on those factory spec Bridgestone tires. They run almost a second faster than anything else. So as I said, probably the biggest detriment in World Endurance Racing is that the difference between the tires and what the teams are actually available and allowed to get compared to others. Some get the full factory spec stuff, which is 2 seconds faster in many ways, and then other teams have to deal with what general customers like you and me get off the shelf. And in this kind of racing scene, it is a big difference. Then there was a great vibe in the fan zone section. Aprilia had a full setup, including their new little sporty adventure bike on display, their full superbikes, the beautiful RSV 4s. and their little GP125 with all the clothing and everything. So it was great to see the fan zone right at the back. I went and experienced this while Shez was in hospital. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go anywhere because he was my lift, my accommodation and everything. So yeah, just taking in the sights and sounds while we waited for him. Honda had a big setup there as well, and the main thing being there. Now let me try and just take a deep breath for this. The 30th anniversary CBR 1000RR-R SP machine, and including the original Fireblade there from all those years back, 1990 or 1992 I think was that original one, but love that new color scheme, or the old color scheme that they've put on the new machine there to support their 30th anniversary colors. The Bold Door 24 Hour, another big race of course in World Endurance Racing, and they had a nice display of the trophy and some of those iconic bikes that have raced in that historic race over the years. Bmw Motorad also with a nice big setup showing off their new machines, including the new naked S1000R machine and the M1000RR that would be competing out on the track with that factory BMW team. So it really is a thing of beauty, that machine. And then a couple of other S1000RR base machines for all the fans to take in some eye candy from the Germans. Of course, a big attraction to any big race meeting is all the apparel that they have for sale. VR46 apparel, Marc Marquez, it's really all there. Then they had some great setups with some accessory stores with massive specials on jackets, boots, riding gloves. The variety and the pricing was what really amazed me compared to the South African market. There really was a massive range available of all different colors, sizes, styles, models, and the pricing was really, really competitive. Suzuki, of course, being the World Endurance champions with their GSXR 1000 machine, they had a big setup showing off this replica machine of their World Endurance race or championship winning machine. Beautiful. It really is a thing of beauty. You can see the big fuel tank there. They run the Bridgestone slicks. They are on those factory Bridgestone slicks, so that's really the big advantage that they've got over everyone else in the paddock and out on track. There's another World Endurance machine there, along with all their new models, including the new GSX 1000S naked bike. They've got the new Katana and the new colors on display there. The new Hayabusa, of course, and then, of course, as well, the new GT version of that GSX 1000S. They also had a really cool, tricked out, color schemed Cert edition there, as you can see with that Cert livery. Beautiful, beautiful there. Kawasaki were also in the house with their full range of products and accessories for everyone to take in, including their ZX-10R model, which would be competing out on track and biting for those top 3 positions, and a full range of Kawasaki apparel available as well, something we don't see in the South African market, so it's always great to see that. Wanted to get myself a couple of those items, but when you convert your South African rands into euro, doesn't always work out that well, but it was great to see the full range of Kawasaki apparel on display and for sale. After taking in the fan zone section and seeing what that's all about, I headed back down into pit lane to just drool over some of the machines that were on display. This is the Ducati Effort, the only Ducati bike that takes part in the World Endurance Racing Series, and it is an absolute thing of beauty. You really did have to stop myself from getting drool all over that motorcycle. You can see the full Öhlins suspension. They run the Pirelli tires. They've got the quick release wheels, and those double acros coming out the back there. It's just an absolute thing of beauty. It really is a gorgeous motorcycle to look at and hear in action. This is the Suzuki setup. This is the team that everyone is trying to beat, like I said, on those full Bridgestone factory tires. Great effort there. These teams were always working. There was never a point down in pits where these bikes were just sitting there ready to go. The teams were always double checking, triple checking things, making sure everything's tight, because of course in a 24-hour race you do not want anything to go wrong. This is the Honda team, the Honda TSR France team. They would also be big contenders on those Bridgestone tires, as would the yacht Yamaha team, Yamaha Austria team, another big contender going for those top 3 spots. And this is the real beauty of World Endurance Racing. On the Friday, they have a free pit walk open to the public, to anyone, for anyone to come in. You don't need any kind of pass, you don't need any kind of accreditation, you don't need any kind of hierarchy. You just come in and you can get up close and personal with the teams and riders, get some autographs, get some photos done. So it really is about the spectators, and this is what I loved about the World Endurance Racing here at Le Mans 24 Hour, was just how accommodating it was for everyone. No matter who you were able to come in and just soak it all up.
De National Moto.
Oui, tout à fait. Nous avons souhaité, à travers notre engagement cette année, de faire la promotion de l'association ARSNA, qui est une association de recherche contre les maladies.
Donc, bravo, pole position le numéro 7. Oui, on est trop contents, ils sont tous incroyables, l'équipe, le équipier, et on est là. C'est la première fois à finir.
Maintenant, l'objectif, c'est renouer, gagner tout simplement.
Avec ce 24 valeurs de partenaires, Lewandowski pour les sont en effet les pilotes titulaires partenaires tous les concerts. Hello.
A great sight and a great experience for sure, as was this. A custom-built GSXR 750, I think, or maybe 2009 model, maybe. Certainly a previous gen GSXR that has been tricked out into the sidecar. So yeah, that was something really cool to see in those CERT World Endurance Championship winning colours with the sidecar and all. Another great sight there to see in pit lane. That would be a huge highlight of the race weekend. A lot of fans attracting themselves to that, and this is just another shot of the pit lane with the pit walk going on for all the spectators. And this is at the back, this is in the paddock area right at the back. Great to see. This is what I love about going to races in Europe, is you see all those big massive race trucks that bring all the race bikes and all the team setups and that. And it was great to be involved with Team Wojciech. This was their trucks, and that was their little hospitality setup there, where we got to sit and eat, and just 24 hours of food coming, but you had to wash your own plate. That was the important thing. Once you had finished eating, wash your own plate. This is coming out of the Team Wojciech pit, and to check out their bike, and just another great shot of the atmosphere. And this is just on the Friday of the Le Mans 24 Hour.
So our three riders will have Chris Platt. This is the exclusive one. Jonathan Grayson, previously rode for...
Pitted a couple of garages away from Shez's Team Wojciech was the 333 team, the Yamaha run machine there of Steven Oerendaal, of course another South African superstar. This would be his first ever World Endurance race, and what a way to be introduced into the series, a Le Mans 24-hour race. So got to speak to him over the course of the weekend. Check out the videos that we put on Facebook with the interviews there. There is the man with his team getting some autographs done there, and he would be seriously thrown into the deep end at the Le Mans 24 Hour, a complete difference to the sprint races that he's been a common to over the past years. There is the Honda France team again. Now the bike's starting to get a little bit more prepped and ready for the Saturday morning warm-up the next day, and then of course the 3 o'clock start for the 24-hour race. There's the BMW team. Another top contender was that BMW team with their riders, certainly going to put in a good show, and a couple of fan favorites there with some French connections in that team. There's the Yamaha Yard team again. As I said, you could just see the mechanics and teams just always working, never just chilling and not doing anything. They were always working on those motorbikes to make sure they were prepped. Here's something interesting. A young lady rider, tiny. I was amazed at how she got on and off that bike every single time. But she did it, and yeah, she was really fast throughout the weekend. So this is the next day, the Saturday, waking up, managed to get on the grid. Another great experience for me. This is all the teams, riders and bikes coming to the grid for the start of the 24-hour race. Of course, they do the old-fashioned start where the bikes line up on the right-hand side of the pit, the riders on the left, and you've got to run to your bike. There's a very special machine, a custom, I think it's a BMW S1000RR engine in kind of like a custom-built frame and setup there. So that was something very special to see as well. But this is some of the sights and sounds of being on the grid, getting ready for the iconic Le Mans 24-hour race. Stephen Orndal looking like he's ready to tackle the Le Mans 24 Hour. That is the team on pole position. The number 7 bike, the Yacht Yamaha, Marvin Fritz putting in the fastest time in the qualifying session. There's the BMW team, Mikacek, who's just done the World Superbike wild card there. So he's one of the top contenders to look out for. Some real big names, past and present, taking part in the World Endurance Series. This is the Ducati setup. They've got David Checker, a big name in World Endurance Racing. They've got Philip Ertel, who was replacing Chaz Davies, who was supposed to take part in the race, but unfortunately came down ill at the last minute. There is Chez's team with his replacement, Robin Mulhauser, the Swiss rider, taking Chez's place in that team. Chez unfortunately not able to take part in the race. He was declared unfit with that concussion. A great experience then to be on the grid for the start of the Le Mans 24 Hour. There is the CERT Suzuki team, Sylvain Gintely and their boys getting ready to do action. They would be top contenders for the overall win on those Bridgestone tyres, certainly. But they were all out to try and get ahead of the Yacht Machine, bike number 7, in pole position. And as we would come to see, they didn't have the start to the race that they want. There is Hanneke, Fritz and Nicholas Canepa, their 3 riders ready to do battle for 24 hours around this iconic Le Mans circuit. Really was great to take in all the sights and sounds, but it was the start of the race, and right off the bat there was already some controversy and some action at the start of the race. As you can see there, where I was filming, just coming down the front straight past the checkered flag, I kind of caught the tail end of that Bradley Smith accident, that massive accident off the start, where he couldn't get the bike started, eventually got it going, and then as he got going, a rider coming from behind clipped him. Really was a big accident, and I know Bradley Smith was badly hurt from that, wasn't able to take place for the rest of the race meeting. That team did everything they could to get that bike fixed and ready to go, but sadly they had to pull out early. This was early on then, under safety car conditions because of that crash coming through. Great access around the Le Mans track, even for a spectator like me to get some good video coverage. This was no special pass needed. As you can see, this is for the general spectators. You can stand almost right on the side of the track and get some great shots there. Now at a MotoGP race, certainly you wouldn't be allowed this up close and personal to the racing action. Custom superbike style sidecars seem to be a big thing here in France, and this is a great shot. This is that iconic opening chicane that goes under that Dunlop tunnel, and for a fan like myself, it was just great to see that shot and hear those bikes coming through there. I'd seen it so many times on TV, but to be on the side of the track now and witnessing it live and up front and with my very own eyes, it really was a special moment. Filtering through came all the machines in the World Endurance Championship. Like I said, the super stock and super bike machines are combined here, and for 24 hours they would be doing battle. I just couldn't believe it, trying to think of 24 hours non-stop racing action. And this is not kind of like a 24-hour where you get a respite. It is flat out sprint racing style for 24 hours. I was so amazed over the 24-hour race how these riders and teams, the lap times that they put in, every single lap. They never kind of just spread away from a certain lap time. They really were on point every single lap. If you made a little bit of mistake or got caught in some traffic the lap before, you would have to make it up the next lap. That is how precise these riders were out on track. These are the leading two riders right off the get-go. They kind of put in a good battle. Yacht Yamaha, of course, got that terrible start. They came flying through the field. They were right at the back from the start of the race, leaving the TSR Honda team out front with Sir Suzuki. It was Greg Black out on track first, or Xavier Simeon doing the hard work out there. And then Team Wojciech also had a terrible start, crashing on the warm-up lap, getting the bike fixed on the grid and then coming out, and they would also find themselves fighting through the pack. Real spectators atmosphere around the track. Like I said, just accommodates every single person, and wherever I went around the track, and it was easy to walk from point to point to point, because as I said, you didn't need a pass. The only time you needed a pass was to get into the actual paddock on race day. Other than that, you could just roam freely and take it all in. This was again the fan zone section coming in there, and as you can see, jam-packed with spectators. Lots to do over the 24 hours. You could take in all the sights and sounds of the fan zone, the track action. They had a nice stage set up there for a band a little bit later on in the evening, but it really did accommodate for all the spectators, even those funny green ones that were walking around being loud most of the time. Just great to be a part of this Le Mans 24 hour, and I can tell you now, having done World Superbikes, MotoGP, and loved those, but World Endurance Racing just has that extra vibe about it, that extra accommodation, the fact that they just take you in and let you enjoy the full experience. That is what makes World Endurance Racing. Back down in the pits then, and this was the first pit stop for Team Wojciech, coming in, swapping riders, new fresh tires front and rear. Every single time you stop, a brand new set of Dunlop tires would go in there, a full fuel tank full of fuel. You've got to kind of abide by the rules and regulations. The rider's not allowed touching the bike, or no one else is allowed to touch the bike while it's being refueled. Once that's done, climb on and off you go. On the other side of the garage, the Superstock team, they unfortunately just were plagued by gremlins and were in and out of the pits more often than not. Essential spares ready to go in case they have a crash. Radiator, handlebars, grips, exhaust pipe silencers, fairing kits, dash, rear sets, engine kits. Well, all part of the endurance series. More problems then for the Superstock side of the Team Wojciech garage. Kevin Manfredi there, the rider out. He did so well to make up so many positions out on track, but just having some gremlins there on the bike. Danny Webb, the second rider there, just trying to see what's going on. It just felt like there was gearbox problems. They just couldn't get it sorted out. But let me tell you, the team worked tirelessly and endlessly to sort those problems out. The words give up just don't exist with the Team Wojciech team on both the Superbike and the Superstock side of the garage. I really was impressed and respected the team for the amount of hard work, dedication and effort that they put in throughout the whole entire race. fantastic team spirit all around there in Team Wojciech. And this was next door. That's that young lady rider, the tiny little rider that's about to climb on and do her first stint out on the LeMans track. Just watch her climb on here. Just struggles to get going. And then once she's out on track, she actually rides really well. It's a super stock team that. And really impressed with that young lady. And while the super stock side of the Team Wojciech garage had problems, so did the Superbike. You would have seen that video that went around of the bike literally catching on fire. And this was the bike coming in after that, getting prepped at the back of the garage, getting all that, you can see all that water that they used to put the fire out. They had to get that all out and get the bike ready. As I said, just the words give up don't exist with this team. Sheridan Morais, even though he couldn't take part in the race, you'll see him just doing everything he can behind the scenes. There he is cleaning one of his teammates' boots, just all the oil off the boot there. So really a great team spirit within this team and in the pit garage. And these guys just don't give up, and the team spirit is just absolutely sensational. They managed to get the bike back into the pits and all assembled and ready. You can see some of the guys from FIM, the scrutineers, just making sure everything is okay. They told the team, especially after seeing all that smoke, but of course that will come with cleaning a bike off with all the regulations and that in place. They were told, as you can see, giving them instructions there, you can go out, do 2 laps, and then they had to come back into the pits just to double check that everything was okay. So there we go, the instruction, go out, do 2 laps, come back in and make sure that bike is okay. But what a heroic effort there from the team to get that bike that was literally on fire 10-15 minutes before this back out on the track. This was the bike coming back into the pits after the 2 laps and just making sure everything is okay, wiping down any excess spray or oil or water before they headed back out on track. Of course, being a 24-hour race, never giving up is a big part of it, because so much can happen over that 24 hours with other teams and making up so much time on track. So it's really about managing that time, and the Team Wojciech did a phenomenal job to get that bike back out on track. Unfortunately, on the other side of the garage, you can see their rider on the Superstock bike, Danny Webb, just telling his team that he thinks that gearbox is definitely gone. So terminal problems there for the Superstock team, while the Superbike team seem to be going along their merry way, making up some really good times with their riders. Robin Mulhauser getting his first stint out on the bike. Now, he's the sub-rider for the Yacht Yamaha team, but because Sheridan couldn't take place, they were able to move him across to Team Wojciech team, and this was the first time going out on the Wojciech Yamaha on those Dunlop tires after he had been testing and experiencing the Yacht bike with those Bridgestone tires on, and he did a phenomenal job to get out on track once he did manage to get the bike fired up and out on track, to adapt to that bike and set really, really good times heading into the evening sessions. Stephen Oendal coming into the pits after his third session out on track, I think it was. Great sights and sounds both on and off track here at a lit up LeMans track. You can see Stephen just giving his teammate there a couple of words of advice about the bike and how it's handling in these tricky conditions. Although I say tricky conditions, but with the track temperature being lower, these were really the times where the fastest lap times of the 24-hour were set. I was amazed at 2 o'clock in the morning. The fastest lap time of the entire race was set by the Yamaha team. This is the Ducati team coming in. That's their rider, Philip Ertel, coming into change with Xavi Flores, I think was the next rider out. Yes, it was. So they were doing really well up till this point. But with 9 hours, 10 hours into the race, this is where teams really started to experience a lot of problems, both mechanically and with riders crashing out on track. Race leaders then TSR Honda coming in for another one of their pit stops. So far, flawless race for their riders. Josh Hook and Gino Ray climbing off the bike there. Getting ready to go out was Mike Demeglio, top French rider, and he was setting remarkably fast times. I couldn't believe the lap times he was setting in these dark kind of night conditions with that cooler track temperature. He really was the man to beat when it came to lap times there. Problems for the Kawasaki team in the pits. Now they blew a motor, stripped that entire motor. You can see the motor out of the chassis there, and replaced whatever they had to replace, conrods, whatever they did. But within, I would say, 2 hours, an hour and a half, took that whole engine out, replaced the parts, put the engine back in, and got going again. So incredible work there from the Kawasaki team. This is Yamaha coming in for their pit stop, running inside that top three at the moment. It was a massive battle between TSR Honda, Yamaha and Sir Suzuki at the front end of the field. All Bridgestone runners, and they really were the team to beat with that advantage of the Bridgestone tires. You can see fireworks going off in the background there. Still a carnival atmosphere, even being late in the night here. This is about 10, 11 hours into the race, but that carnival atmosphere just carried on the entire 24 hours. It did get a little bit much, I won't lie, just trying to get upstairs and just have a little bit of a respite, where you just hear this continuous sound of motorbikes screaming down the straight. You can see even the pit crews taking strain at this point. This is about 2 o'clock in the morning now, really starting to take strain there, but the work just carries on and doesn't stop. No rest for the wicked, as they say. Coming into the pits there, Team Voyage, you can just see the riders now starting to gingerly get off there, those bodies starting to cramp. Upstairs in the riders pit box, they've got the masseuses, they've got all the nutrition and everything the riders need to carry on going for the entire 24 hours. The riders literally take a couple of hours or an hour literally break in between their sessions just to try and refresh, get those bodies and muscles massaged before they head back out on track. Stephen Odendaal and his team doing a great job running up inside that top 5 in the Superbike class at the moment. And Stephen Odendaal, yeah, just getting the thumbs up from his teammate, but a big introduction into World Endurance Racing for Stephen Odendaal. Spoke to him just before this and said he was taking strain. The body and the mind really starting to feel it. So completely different preparation and mindset for World Endurance Racing compared to the sprint stuff. Sir Suzuki coming in for a pit stop there, and by this time they were leading the race, and I can tell you, compared to all the other teams, they were the most composed, relaxed and professional when it came to these pit stops. You can see there's no hesitation, there's no rush, everything is just coordinated, planned to perfection. And this told, they show the lap time, or the time spent at the pit stops, and they made up over the 24 hours, they made up almost close to a minute just with the pit stop. So you can see a real professional outfit there with that Sir Suzuki, and that's why they got the #1 plate on here. Unfortunately, more bad news for the Superbike team in the Wojciech garage, who eventually, after so much hard work, you can see at this point, still trying to get that bike fixed and out on track. But unfortunately, they would eventually have to say, that's enough, throw in the towel and call it a day. The rider's safety also comes into play there. but what an heroic effort from this hard-working team that just never, ever says give up and just doesn't know how to give in, and massive respect to the team.
Voilà, c'était la scène finalement. Qu'est-ce que c'est là?
A few garages down, and the 333 bike, that team of Stephen Windal's coming in for an unplanned pit stop. Some problems with that bike there, which would eventually force them out of the race. They'd got up inside the top 4 overall in the superbike category. I think it was gearbox problems as well that would ultimately put them out of the running of the Le Mans 24-hour race. Such a pity, because the team and Stephen Windal were doing such a fantastic job up till that point. So that is it then, my first experience of the iconic Le Mans 24-hour, and it was absolutely brilliant to be part of the Team Wojciech team and have the behind-the-scenes coverage. I hope you've enjoyed this little highlights reel that I've put together. By this point, I was absolutely exhausted, so I was over it all and just wanted to get home and climb into bed and snuggle up for a well-deserved rest.